Ain't no sunshine when you gone. The coming forth of day by night. Divine spirit conscious insight. High Priest Kwatamani, it's time we get it right. Supreme soothsayer, soul seer, spiritual healer, revealer, and chief elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis tribe. The oldest, longest sustained, raw and living, purely plant-fueled family community order known. Over half a century and still going strong. High Priest Kwatamani speaks.
The key to our existence, no matter how many times that I say this over and over and over again, the key is resurrecting the sacred ancestral feminine essence of she. If we do not, there's no possibility of us starting at ground zero going forward.
Yeah, we knew her. Knew he wanted to subdue her, find ways and means to get to her. Nah, she was not deaf, dumb, blind, knew all the signals, all the signs. She knew the predatory mind of the deviant kind, ready to recline from 6 to 9, watching her twist, shaking her behind, keepers of the gold mine. Yeah, she knew a hard on could make a man lose all his sense, get real intense, ready to cover her expense, making her feel high and mighty, feeling the flighty from his attention, not to mention his lustful stare. Nah, she didn't care when her mama said beware. She was young and naive, ready to believe the romantic plot, got caught in his love me not, did not turn out well after the draws fell. End of fairy tale, as happily ever after turned into a heartbreaking disaster. So she learned to rap, reversed the curse of the trap, kidnapped his soul, placed his mind under her control before he left her womb, humanity's first class room. And from then until detox, purging and healing began, deep within man, he and she would be born in sin.
Ain't no sunshine when you gone.
It is no question that the male is a very, very significant piece of this puzzle, which is the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, simply because the puzzle will remain a puzzle if all of the bits and pieces are not in place to make a whole presence. We're talking about the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, he and she. And we're talking about creating a space and place so that a sacred few of the few of the few can birth. We're talking about selective breeding. That's right. We're not playing about it. The sacred few of the few of the few of the few of the few have to come to this realization. All of these vibrations of creating these relationships based upon how fine she is or how handsome he is nonsense. It is not to say that we don't want to be as fit as possible, he and she. What it means is our primary focus, duty, obligation, responsibility to each other is number one, the male, to provide divine guidance and protection to she, and she, the female, to provide affectionate, nurturing vibrations to he, and all that he stands for as the masculine energy. You see, the protective element for feminine she is divine socioeconomic family community. Once she's left to roam, she's lost. And all the offsprings born of her experience is lost even more so. Therefore, the male who's born of her experience will become even more predatory in his nature. He will become one who seeks and search to find a moment of pleasure. The holistic living reality, we have a magnificent something that goes on between us, man, he and she, when we come into the union of one. Hey, come on, it's a beautiful feeling. We can't figure out and put our hands on what it is. We don't know if it feels so good. We don't know but it's something very special that happens. It is actually encoded to happen like so that we can remain engaged in the idea of keeping our presence forward on this earth. That's why we're here. We're actually here to go forward and multiply the essence of who we be in divine order. Therefore, we have to focus on the reestablishment of unions, masculine and feminine relationships, peaceful, harmonious relationships, long-term relationships, where the primary focus is breeding, seeding, and feeding a holistic generation next. We have to focus on this green earth solar conscious reality, our sacred garden culture present, and the fuel of the tree of life. That wholesome fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts vibration is very real. There are those who have seen clearly, beyond the shadow of doubt, that Babylon system mindset, as it is called, is carrying man, he and she, into the depths of self-destruction. People are actually functioning like individuals, lonely, empty, sad, blue. The offsprings that they have created, they send them right back into the same nature of energy that you've already seen and declared as opposed to your existence. So what happened? Zero. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. If you begin a forward movement and then you produce offsprings who you send back into that movement that you've already seen and declared as opposed to your existence, you just took a forward step, a plus, and then you just sent them back into a negative. And if you put those two together, it's going to come up with nothing.
Quote, there is a prophetic, earth-shifting movement of whole life energy that is once again seeding and birthing a consciousness of higher peace upon the planet Earth. This higher peace is expressed in connection with life-affirming family-community relationships, whether one is a mate, father, mother, son, daughter, sister, or brother, within the realities and challenges of family community order. There is no solitary male or female who can do this thing alone. There is no higher peace within the isolated and separated existence of egotistical individualism. Page 6, from the inner womb of supreme femininity, forwarding the expressions of the Kwatamani Royal Sisterhood in the prophetic 12,594-year Banu cycle, encoding the consciousness of higher peace through the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, Book 1, by High Priest Kwatamani, release date November 11, 2011.
Reality. We are embodied within the flesh. We are soul hold energy. We have disengaged from that soul hold forward movement because of master programming. And it has caused a situation where the masculine and the feminine can't even truly really stand each other again. It's to the point that consciousness has become so confused that there's very little to no space and place for the resurrection of whole life energy. Remember, habits are hard to break, and man, he and she, is a creature of habits. Then you have addictions and afflictions. To get past all of that in a detox, purging, and healing process is a major challenge. We're going to have to do something different than what's going on. We're going to have to make commitments and stick by them. Most are so caught up in the worldly experiences that they have, the challenges, that they just don't have time to focus on those offsprings. And then the offsprings have been put into various social infrastructure that tells them, he and she, that you're an individual. You have to think for yourself. You have to do for yourself. And then amazingly, those infrastructures, those institutions, utilize their life energy to keep it going. Now what we have to do is to decide what we want to keep going. That's all. We're not condemning those who do what they do, why they do when they do it. We're saying it is a time for the sacred few of the few of the few of the few to do what it is that we must do to preserve our holistic living presence as man, he and she, as divine children of the sun, emerging out of the sacred garden culture present, higher peace conscious reality. We must do what it is that we need to do. That call has been going out for such a long time. And there are so many who have jumped and said, yeah, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then the bottom line is they send the offspring right back into the status quo with no possibility of moving a step further, but rather taking greater steps behind, becoming addicted and afflicted to the materialistic world where nothing matters except profit and loss. You are losing your mental stability to maintain a simple, basic relationship. The situation is becoming more and more destabilizing. This is a serious challenge. Let us see how we can come into a oneness for the sake of the generation next. Let's see how we can get a natural and innate state of relationships, a natural and innate state of being, as our ancestors did before the intrusions and invasions destabilized our whole life present. Now, what I'm speaking of can sound very strange to some folks because it's like, no, I want to be able to choose my own. And then they go out there and choose. Have a young lady, for example. Yes, we knew her. Knew he wanted to seduce her, find ways and means to get to her. No, she was not deaf, dumb, blind. Knew all the signals, all the signs. She knew the predatory mind of the deviant kind, ready to recline from 6 to 9, watching her twist, shaking her behind. Keepers of the gold mine. She knew a hard-on could make a man lose all his sense, get real intense, ready to cover her expense, making her feel high and mighty, feeling a little flighty from his attention, not to mention his lustful stare. No, she didn't care when her mama said beware. She was young and naive, ready to believe the romantic plot, got caught in his love me not. Did not turn out well after the draws fell. End of fairy tale. As happily ever after turned into a heartbreaking disaster. Yeah, she learned to rap, reversed the curse of the trap, kidnapped his soul, placed his mind under her control before he left her womb, humanity's first classroom. And from then until detox, purging, and healing began, man, he and she would be born in sin. And the tingle she feel like, oh wow, that must be my soul responding. Maybe that's my soulmate. And she can become so ignorant that without any investigations, she will submit to that nature that actually has every encode inside that oppose her existence. And she don't realize it. Simply because she's ovulating. And when her body starts to signal ovulation, it's a call. It's a call for regeneration. It's also a call that there's a clearance going on in her body, and she just finished that process, and now she's fresh and ready to begin a new cycle. However, if all that is not comprehended, and if she is not within a family community order where the feminine has a society that actually continues to keep her abreast and aware of her femininity, and if there's not a masculine society that keeps him fully aware functionality, then it becomes open game. And this is what goes on. And so we are creating situations where there are a mass amount of offsprings of a lower and lesser nature, thought, reason, and action being produced, and they're going crazy on each other and going forward and multiplying more toxic disorder. And it's headed for a dead end. It is about self-destruction on a rampage. And as a result of this, if we do not open our eyes, our mental consciousness, our spiritual consciousness, our physical awareness of how our infrastructure, the body, function, you will become a part of the problem instead of a part of the holistic living solution. Now, most souls have been so suppressed that even when it's hollering, hey, hey, come on, man, let's get natural. Come on, we got to survive. You can't hardly hear it. Then the loud sounds of the environment are so much that it smothers and covers any sound that comes from the inner core of your existence. And you begin to function like status quo. This will not allow you to spiritually grow. Each and every one of you must come to know that life is for the living, for giving, and we must focus our whole life energy on forward multiplication of who we be. What you are was given to you by the ancestors before you. If you are about the future, you must see how to clean up anything that didn't come proper or is not properly encoded in your mindset. You must filter it, clean it up, and find a more wholesome way of presenting your package to the next generation. So what I'm talking about right now is preparing a wholesome package from each and every one of us who know deep within our heart and soul that we are special being upon this earth, that there's something inside, a certain kind of spiritual integrity that calls for us to do better than what has been done before. And for those few of the few, we must get up and get bold. We must also come to the realization that we owe our living presence to the forward multiplication. The forward multiplication of a new breed of consciousness, a new generation of consciousness. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. That's how we emerge. That's how we continue. Too often we have come to think that this physical body is us. We forget that even when you begin to feel your fingers, etc., you can feel you feeling it. We got to get down to feeling the essence of who we be. We have to begin to come to realize that there's a presence far greater than the physical manifestation of body and flesh. And that body and flesh is like a seed cover for us to walk through. And when you begin to get into the core of that seed cover, you see the seed, the soul. And that soul that is manifesting has a deep need to be replanted inside the next generation. The male, he has a divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility to encode whole life spirituality. Now that's not necessarily been going on because the male has decided that he wants to engage in the physicality of his self-deified individualistic nature. And he wants to be a conqueror of the physical manifestation of people or things or stuff or whatever it is. And the feminine, being that she is the nurturer, that toxic nature, that opposing nature being brought to her, then that's the fix, because she's going to breed that into the next generation.
Without the divine guidance and protection of the ancestral male, the female has become cold, bitter, and self-destructive at her core. Without the divine nurturing of the ancestral female, the male has become chaotic, dangerous, and ready to explode. Each generation of offspring born from these disconnected males and females become more and more depleted, more and more enslaved to the energy that opposes supreme love and the essence of life. Page 6, Banu Book 1.
If we begin to realize something right here, the key to our existence, regardless of what we think, has been put to us completely wrong. The key to our existence is preserving the feminine she. She is the nurturing energy, the birthplace. Preserve her. Keep her wholesome, healthy, and safe. Give her proper guidance and protection, and she will breed wholesome, healthy, safe, proper guiding and protecting into the next breed of offsprings. So the male has to carry the encodes of higher peace conscious spirituality. It is entirely corrupted to the point that he's constantly thinking of monotheistic deification. Once he started to think that without realizing that he's only one half of deification, so it can't be monotheistic. It has to be holistic. And the feminine she is that key and essential element to maintaining and forwarding his existence. Yes, he's key in forwarding her existence too, because without that sperm hitting that egg, ain't nothing going on. Once that sperm has hit that egg, something got to go on for a long time if fertilization take place. 9 whole months in, and she carried all the seeds of consciousness that has been brought to her. And if the male was hitting it and gone, she has gotten no seeds of consciousness except seeds of disrespect, seeds of disorder, seeds of selfishness, seeds of individualistic pleasure. And that will cause her to become a very destabilized being. And that's what she will forward into the next generation. In other words, we have to work toward perfecting the masculine and feminine relationship or lose it all. There's a bond, he and she, divine union one. That bond is the greatest gift and the greatest duty, obligation, responsibility that man, he and she have upon this earth. You see, if that was where we were at right now, there's no way in the world that all this war and conflict and destruction of others for one's personal satisfaction and glory, to dominate, control somebody's land, natural wealth, this, that, it would not be going on, because our focus would be so much on manifesting wholesome and healthy relationships within a divine union of one, he and she, that we would have enough sense to realize the greatest gift that we can have for each other is to create a wholesome, healthy, conscious peace vibration, peaceful living, so that we can enjoy the pleasure of going forward and multiplying the next generation. We think that pleasure is an individualistic thing. So there are he who have no concern about anything except getting that out. And then once it's done, whoever she be, however beautiful he thought she was, is conquest. On to the next predatorial conquest. Those things create such vicious, cold-blooded, self-centered realities in the female. And then she re-encodes that into the next generation of males and females. The female who's born out of that, she becomes so bitter, so angry. He becomes inflamed with bitterness, and it comes right back to him in many, many ways that he don't even comprehend, because it's been encoded in her, and that encoding in her has actually been reinfused back into him. It's a vicious circle. We're losing our offsprings. They see someone that have the appearance of a natural state, for example, and they just automatically feel that those beings are of the same consciousness as he or she may be. And the next thing they realize is that they are so far off track in their selection that it ain't funny. This is why our sacred ancestors did not allow that kind of reality to dominate our existence. What would happen, you have a council of elders, you have a council of chiefs, you have the primary sisterhood relationships, the primary brotherhood relationship, and we amass together to create the greatest possibility of successful mate relationships. We're actually speaking the encodes of our most supreme unseen elders who are calling on us on the scene to bring some whole life truth to the ears of those who need to hear the key to our existence. No matter how many times and I say this over and over and over again, the key is resurrecting the sacred ancestral feminine essence of she. If we do not, there's no possibility of us starting at ground zero going forward.
Time to detox, purge and heal and feel supreme love for real.
The need for each other has been so badly twisted, so shape-shifted. Most folks missed it. The nature of he and she unified cannot be denied. Yes, supreme love, that's what the essence of life is made of. Encoded holistically for all to see the reality. Divine social economic family community.
Time to detox, purge and heal. Feel supreme love for real.